The sky above Frostfall was a pale gray, almost silver, stretching endlessly over the frozen landscape. Kara tightened her gloves and peered through the frost-covered window of the small exploration ship. Outside, icy winds whipped across jagged mountains and wide plains of snow that seemed to stretch forever. The sensors were warning them of approaching turbulence, but the crew could not turn back. Frostfall was a planet at the edge of the known galaxy. No one had ever survived long there, and yet here they were, humans determined to explore the impossible. The ship trembled violently as it passed through a thick layer of frost clouds. The controls shook under Kara's hands. "Steady, everyone. Keep calm," she said, her voice firm but not loud. Around her, the rest of the crew struggled to keep the vessel stable. Leo, the co-pilot, adjusted the thrusters while Mara checked the navigation systems. Every system beeped warnings that they could not ignore. The wind howled outside like a wild animal, bending the metal hull and rattling loose panels. Suddenly, an alarm shrieked. "Impact in 3 seconds, the ship's AI warned." Kara gritted her teeth. She had trained for this, but no amount of training could erase the fear that surged through her chest. The hull hit a jagged ice ridge. Metal screeched and twisted. Sparks flew as the ship skidded across frozen plains, leaving a trail of ice behind. The world outside became a blur of white and silver as the vessel spun out of control. Then everything went silent. When Kara opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor, the air thick with the smell of smoke and cold metal. The ship had come to rest at the edge of a frozen cliff. Snow had piled against the hull, hiding the damage but trapping them in a fragile pocket of safety. The crew slowly got up, shaken but alive. Leo checked the communications. "No signal to orbit." "We are completely alone," he said. His voice was calm but carried a hint of worry. Kara looked out at the vast frozen landscape. The sun, a pale white disk, struggled to shine through thick clouds. Snow drifted in great waves across the plains. Mountains rose like frozen teeth in the distance. Nothing moved except the wind. It was beautiful, but deadly. Every survival instinct in Kara's mind screamed caution. Frostfall was not forgiving. "First, we checked the ship for damage. Then we set up temporary shelters," Kara instructed. The crew nodded, moving quickly despite the chill that burned their fingers. Mara used the emergency scanners to check the hull. "We've got damage to the lower thrusters. Life support is stable, but not for long. Temperature outside is -110 degrees Celsius. We don't have much time." Kara swallowed. The numbers were terrifying. At this temperature, even a few minutes outside unprotected could freeze fingers and faces in an instant. She knew that in this world, mistakes could be fatal. But fear could not control them. Humans had a way of surviving when others failed. The crew donned their thickest suits and climbed out into the snow. Kara led them down a slope toward what looked like a shallow valley. Wind cut at them like blades. Every step was hard, sinking into ice and snow. Frost formed on their suits, coating their helmets and gloves. Their breaths came in clouds that vanished instantly into the cold. Kara's eyes scanned the horizon. There were no signs of life, no movement, no tracks. Nothing but endless white. Hours passed as they trudged across the frozen landscape. The sun barely moved. Kara's fingers ached despite the thick gloves. She had to stay focused. In the distance, she spotted a line of ice cliffs with a darker shadow at the base. "There," she said. "We can use that for shelter. It may be natural, but it will protect us from the wind." The crew moved carefully. Snow shifted under their boots, and cracks in the ice hinted at hidden crevasses. One wrong step could send someone plummeting into the freezing depths. Leo carefully scanned the ground, pointing out weak spots. They reached the cliff safely, and Kara exhaled. For now, they had a place to rest and think. Inside the cliff's natural cavity, The temperature was a little better, though still freezing. They unpacked emergency gear, setting up portable heaters and temporary sleeping units. Mara checked their supplies. "We have enough food and water for 5 days if rationed carefully," she reported. "After that, we will need to find more or figure out a way to contact Earth." Kara nodded. Communication was critical, but they could not rely on signals alone. Frostfall was notorious for blocking transmissions. She remembered old reports from alien explorers who had attempted the planet centuries ago. None had returned. The records were scattered and incomplete, but the message was clear. This world was not welcoming. It punished arrogance. The first night was the hardest. The wind outside shrieked like a wild creature. Snow piled against the rock walls, shaking the shelters. Inside, the humans huddled together, sharing warmth. Kara stared at the ice walls, thinking about the challenges ahead. Survival here required more than strength or skill. It required thinking differently, seeing opportunities where others saw only danger. Humans were good at that. Before sleep, Kara assigned watches. Someone had to monitor the outside constantly. The ice cliffs could hide more than just snow. Predators, though unreported, could exist. And there were old alien structures rumored to lie beneath the frozen plains. No one knew what they were for, or why they had been abandoned, but curiosity burned inside every human. Hours passed in tense silence. Then Mara called softly, pointing toward a faint glow deep within the ice. Kara squinted. It was subtle, barely visible through the darkness. "What is that?" Mara whispered. Kara shook her head. "We don't know yet, but we will find out. Tomorrow, we explore carefully. We survive today, and we learn tomorrow." Outside, the wind continued to howl. Inside, humans worked, thinking, planning, and adapting. The cold could not stop them. Frostfall was harsh and unforgiving, but it had not yet broken the crew. Humans had survived worse. They had to. The frozen dawn was not the end. It was the beginning. Kara lay down for a short rest, watching the pale light filter through the ice. She knew the journey ahead would test them all, but there was something inside humans that set them apart. Hope. Ingenuity. The will to survive and to thrive. In a world where others had failed, humans had arrived. And they would endure. The next morning, Kara woke before the rest of the crew. Frostfall's pale light filtered through the ice walls, painting everything in shades of silver and blue. She pulled on her boots and gloves, feeling the biting cold even through the layers. Today, they would explore the caves Kara had seen from their temporary shelter. There was something strange about them, a quiet rhythm that seemed almost alive. Humans had a habit of noticing details that others ignored. This might be dangerous, but it might also be important. "Time to move," Kara called softly. Mara, Leo, and the rest of the team quickly gathered their gear. They packed emergency supplies, scanners, ropes, and lights. Every item could be the difference between survival and disaster. Outside, the wind was calmer than the previous day, but it still cut like knives. Kara led them carefully across the frozen plains toward the cliffs. The caves were larger than they had expected. The entrance opened like a jagged mouth in the ice. Kara shined her flashlight inside. Walls of translucent ice rose high, reflecting their lights in colors that shifted from pale blue to bright white. The floor was slippery, but solid enough to walk. Mara ran a scanner. No life forms detected yet. Energy readings are low but not zero. We should stay alert. Kara nodded. We proceed slowly. Stay together and keep your eyes open. Humans were explorers, but they were also smart. They understood the value of caution in unknown worlds. Unlike other species who might rush or rely only on strength, humans thought ahead, studied patterns, and adapted. That was what had kept them alive in Frostfall so far. They moved deeper into the cave. The walls pulsed faintly with light. Kara touched the ice. It was smooth and strangely warm under her glove. Leo ran a scanner over it. These are not natural crystals. They are shaped with precision. Someone or something made them. Kara raised her eyebrows. Alien construction meant intelligence. If life had once been here, there might still be traces. As they walked, the floor dipped into a wide tunnel. The ceiling glittered with thousands of small crystals that reflected their lights. Mara paused. "Do you feel that?" she asked. Kara listened. A low hum filled the air, subtle but constant. It seemed to vibrate through the walls and floor. Humans could sense patterns and rhythms in ways machines and other species often missed. This hum could be a warning, a signal, or even a map left behind by ancient inhabitants. Suddenly, the floor shook lightly. Kara steadied herself. "Everyone stay calm. We don't know what it is." They continued, careful with each step. The cave opened into a large chamber. In the center, a massive crystal formation rose from the floor like a frozen tree. Its glow was brighter now, casting dancing lights across the walls. Kara could feel the energy in the air. It was unlike anything they had encountered on Earth or in recorded alien worlds. Leo moved closer to scan the crystal. "It is emitting low-frequency energy, but it is stable. It might be a power source, or a form of communication," he said. Kara nodded. Humans had a talent for noticing connections others missed. Where alien explorers might have ignored the crystal or destroyed it, humans were careful, observing and learning. While they studied the chamber, Mara noticed tracks in the snow that had drifted into the cave. "These are fresh," she said, pointing. Kara leaned closer. The footprints were large, with elongated toes and claws. "Not human. Not any animal I have seen." "Keep your distance, but stay alert," she instructed. They moved along the edges of the chamber, watching for movement. A shadow flickered near the far wall. Kara held her light steady. A large creature stepped into view. Its body was covered in thick, icy fur. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting their lights. It moved slowly but with purpose. Kara realized this was a predator adapted perfectly to Frostfall's extreme cold. "Do not panic. Observe and plan," Kara whispered. Humans were clever in dangerous situations. They did not attack blindly. They noticed patterns. The creature circled the chamber, sniffing the air. It did not charge. Kara gestured to her crew. "We move along the opposite side. Watch for openings and remember the exit." Step by careful step, they followed the cave walls. The predator ignored them but continued its patrol. Kara felt her heart race. Frostfall had tested them already, and now it presented a challenge that required intelligence and patience. The humans were not the fastest, not the strongest, but they were clever, resilient, and adaptive. That gave them an edge no other species could match. As they moved deeper, they discovered smaller crystals embedded in the walls, each one humming faintly. Kara touched one carefully. Energy flowed through her gloves, harmless but noticeable. It felt like the cave was alive in some way, responding to their presence. Leo scanned it. "This is incredible. The crystals store energy. It could be used for power or communication." Kara smiled slightly. Humans always found ways to turn challenges into opportunities. Hours passed as they explored. They mapped tunnels, marked safe paths, and avoided unstable ice formations. Kara noticed patterns in the cave's hum and lights, almost like a message. "We need to study this carefully. It might be the key to understanding the planet," she said. Mara nodded, recording everything. When the team finally paused to rest, they found a larger chamber with a small pool of liquid water. Steam rose gently, a surprising warmth in the freezing cave. "Fresh water." This could be crucial for survival, Mara said. Kara agreed. Water, energy from the crystals, and knowledge of the caves gave them an advantage. Humans adapted, using what they found, and they survived where others would fail. As night fell outside the ice cliffs, the humans made camp inside the cave. They set up portable heaters near the warm pool and used the crystal's glow for light. Kara looked around at her team. Each face showed exhaustion, but also determination. Frostfall was harsh, but humans were stronger than it seemed. They could survive. They could adapt. They could thrive. Before sleep, Kara stood near the glowing crystals, touching the largest one gently. It pulsed under her hand. She whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." Humans had arrived at Frostfall, and the planet was full of mysteries. Every danger was an opportunity, every unknown a test. The ice caves held secrets that had been waiting for explorers who could see, think, and endure. Humans were those explorers. Outside, the wind howled, but inside the cave, there was warmth, light, and hope. The frozen world had not defeated them. It had only begun to challenge them. Kara knew tomorrow would bring new discoveries, and perhaps new dangers, but for the first time, the humans of Frostfall felt they belonged in this strange, icy world. The frozen dawn was not a threat yet. It was a chance. The humans had settled into the ice caves for a second night. The glowing crystals filled the chambers with gentle light, and the small pool of warm water offered a rare comfort on Frostfall. Kara stood near the entrance, watching snow swirl outside. The wind howled over the icy plains, carrying a sound that was both beautiful and dangerous. In the distance, the jagged mountains cut sharp lines against the pale sky. Everything was quiet, but Kara knew Frostfall never truly slept. Suddenly, a soft tremor ran through the cave floor. Kara froze, listening. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew steadily stronger. The team paused their evening routines, sensing her tension. Mara's scanner beeped quietly. Movement outside. Large organism, she said. Kara nodded. Humans had learned to read signs others often missed. Subtle tremors, faint sounds, slight shifts in light and shadow, these were the clues that kept them alive. Kara gestured for everyone to stay calm. No sudden movements. Watch and observe, she instructed. The humans had survived the crash, the freezing winds, and the strange caves because they worked together and thought before acting. They would do the same now. A shadow appeared at the cave entrance. Kara's heart skipped a beat. The predator they had noticed yesterday emerged from the swirling snow. Its body was massive, covered in thick fur that glimmered with frost. Its eyes glowed faintly in the pale light. The creature moved silently, stepping over snow and ice as if it were part of the frozen world itself. It stopped, sensing the humans, and tilted its head, studying them. Leo whispered, "It is waiting, not attacking." Kara observed the predator carefully. Unlike other species that might react with blind aggression, humans used strategy. They watched patterns. The creature moved in short bursts, testing the edges of the cave. Kara realized it was not hunting blindly. It was calculating, patient, like the humans themselves. "Stay low," Kara instructed. "We move slowly along the left wall. Keep the crystals between us and it. If it attacks, we retreat to the inner chambers." Humans were not the fastest, but they could think quickly. Their minds were tools as sharp as claws. They had to use intelligence to survive. Step by careful step, the team moved along the cave wall. The predator followed the light, circling slowly, sniffing the air. Every sound echoed in the icy chamber. Kara signaled to Mara, who marked their path on a portable map. Understanding the cave's structure gave humans an advantage. They could see patterns the predator could not, and they could plan moves far ahead. After several tense minutes, the predator stopped again, crouching low. Its glowing eyes reflected the crystal's light. Kara noticed the pattern of its movements. It seemed to patrol in repeated circles, checking specific points near the entrance. Humans recognized repetition and patterns quickly. Kara whispered, "It has a rhythm." We wait for a gap, then move toward the inner tunnel. The team held their breath. Time seemed to stretch. Kara counted silently. Then, in a brief window when the predators had turned away, they advanced. Every step was calculated, every movement measured. Leo's scanner hummed softly, picking up subtle vibrations in the ice floor. Kara used the readings to predict where the creature would move next. Humans combined observation, memory, and instinct to stay ahead. Suddenly, the predator growled softly. The sound reverberated through the cave. The humans froze. Kara noticed a faint crack in the ice beneath the predator's paw. The creature hesitated. It sniffed the air, listening. Kara seized the moment. She led the crew to a narrow passage branching deeper into the caves. The walls here were closer together, providing cover. The predator followed cautiously but could not enter the tight space. Inside the narrow passage, the humans paused to catch their breath. Mara checked the scanners. No immediate threat. "The predator cannot follow us here," she said. Kara nodded, feeling a surge of relief. Humans survived because they could think faster than danger, act smarter than instinct alone, and adapt to challenges others could not. Kara studied the predator from the passage. It sat near the entrance, scanning the chamber, waiting for movement. The humans realized it was patient, clever, and attuned to the environment. It was a dangerous creature, but not invincible. The humans had learned its patterns, used the environment, and stayed alive. That was what set them apart. As they moved deeper into the cave, they discovered another chamber filled with crystals of unusual shape. Some glowed brighter than before, casting intricate patterns on the icy walls. Kara touched one lightly. Energy pulsed through her gloves, gentle but noticeable. She realized the crystals could serve multiple purposes. They could light the caves, provide warmth, or even confuse predators. Humans thought in ways other species could not. They adapted, using knowledge and observation as weapons. While exploring the chamber, the humans found claw marks etched into the ice near the walls. The predator had been here before, leaving traces of its presence. Kara studied the patterns. It hunts by observing, not attacking recklessly. It is cautious, like us, she said. Mara nodded. We can predict its behavior if we pay attention. We have a chance to coexist safely. Hours passed as they mapped the inner chambers. The predator never left the entrance but continued its patrol. Kara realized Frostfall had tested them, but humans were not easy to break. They survived because they adapted. They survived because they observed. They survived because they understood challenges and turned them into lessons. As night fell, Kara gathered the team near a cluster of glowing crystals. We will rest here. The predator stays outside, and we have a safe zone. Tomorrow, we continue exploring, but always with caution. This world is dangerous, but it rewards those who think, plan, and act wisely, she said. Humans had survived worse. They would survive Frostfall. Kara touched one of the larger crystals. Its light pulsed gently. This planet is alive in ways we do not fully understand, she said softly. It tests us, but it also provides. If we learn, we can thrive. Humans had an instinct to explore, to seek knowledge, and to endure. That instinct had kept them alive so far. It would keep them alive in the future. The wind outside screamed across the frozen plains, but inside the cave, the humans felt warmth, light, and safety. They were not masters of Frostfall yet, but they were learning. Every movement, every observation, every choice made them stronger. The predator was a challenge, not a threat they could not overcome. Humans had patience, intelligence, and courage. That was enough. Before sleep, Kara checked the path they had taken. Every mark, every scanner reading, every crystal's glow was noted carefully. Humans survived because they remembered, because they analyzed, and because they adapted. Frostfall's dangers could not match the power of human ingenuity. Outside, the predator paced near the entrance, a silent guardian of the frozen world. Inside, humans rested and prepared for tomorrow. The frozen dawn was harsh and unforgiving, but humans were clever, resilient, and alive. Kara smiled slightly. Frostfall could challenge them, but it could not defeat them. Humans always found a way. The next morning, Kara and her team awoke to the pale glow of the ice crystals. Frostfall's frozen wind howled outside, but inside the cave, the light reflected off walls like liquid silver. The predator from the previous day stayed near the entrance, pacing in silent patience. Kara studied the creature for a moment, noting its patterns, and then turned her attention to the inner caves. Today, they would explore deeper tunnels that Mara's scanner had detected the previous night. The passage narrowed as they moved deeper into the ice. Jagged crystals jutted from the floor and ceiling, forming natural obstacles. Kara led carefully, stepping over slippery ice and keeping her flashlight trained on the walls. Leo held the scanner close, tracking vibrations and energy signatures. Humans had survived Frostfall so far because they could combine observation with analysis, noticing details others overlooked. Today, that skill would guide them to something extraordinary. After hours of careful movement, they entered a vast chamber unlike anything they had seen. The walls were smoother here, shaped with intention rather than nature. Strange symbols were etched into the ice, glowing faintly in the light. Mara scanned the markings. These are not natural. Someone made them. Perhaps the previous civilization the crystals belonged to, she said. Kara nodded. Humans recognized signs and patterns quickly. Other explorers might have ignored these marks, but humans studied, learned, and adapted. As they stepped further in, the floor beneath them changed. Ice gave way to stone tiles hidden under frost. Kara knelt to brush away the snow. The tiles formed geometric shapes that extended in all directions. This is a constructed space. Not just natural caves, Kara said softly. Humans had the curiosity to investigate, the patience to examine, and the intelligence to connect clues. That was what set them apart from others. Suddenly, a low hum filled the chamber. Kara's team paused, listening. The energy readings on Mara's scanner spiked. Leo shined his flashlight around, revealing walls lined with ancient machines, frozen in time. Some still pulsed with dim energy. Kara's pulse quickened. Frostfall was dangerous, but it was also full of secrets. Humans had a way of unlocking mysteries where other species failed. The team spread out carefully, examining the machines. Many were covered in frost and ice, but the shapes and patterns were clear. Some resembled storage units, others looked like energy conduits. Kara touched one cautiously. A small panel flickered to life under her hand. The machine hummed, lights glowing in response to her touch. Mara gasped. It's reacting to us. It has waited for someone to activate it. Kara smiled slightly. Humans had a talent for problem solving and adaptation that allowed them to survive challenges no one else could. While exploring the chamber, Kara noticed a narrow doorway partially blocked by ice. She signaled to the crew. This way. Carefully. Using their tools, they chipped away the frost to reveal a passage. Inside, the walls were lined with smaller crystals. The floor was worn, suggesting that something or someone had walked here long ago. Kara's mind raced. This could be a library, a laboratory, or a communication center. Humans had the skill to discover and use knowledge that others left behind. The passage opened into a larger room. At the center was a massive structure, a crystal-like console covered in glowing symbols. Kara approached it slowly. "This could be the control hub," she said. Mara and Leo joined her. Mara scanned the structure. "Energy levels are low, but it is stable. It might be possible to reactivate parts of it." Kara nodded. Humans had the patience to experiment carefully, unlike others who might destroy what they did not understand. Kara touched the console. A faint light pulsed through the symbols. Images appeared in the air, holographic and shifting. Kara stepped back in awe. The projections showed a civilization thriving long ago on Frostfall. Cities of crystal structures, machines working with precision, and beings adapted to the ice. Humans could see patterns, understand context, and imagine solutions in ways other species could not. Leo studied the holograms closely. They were advanced, but something went wrong. Energy readings indicate a massive failure. Perhaps they could not survive the planet's storms. Kara frowned. Humans had faced impossible challenges before, but they had survived because they adapted. Unlike the lost civilization, humans had the ability to learn from mistakes and use intelligence to endure. As they explored, Kara noticed small compartments in the walls. Inside were records crystals etched with symbols, glowing softly. Mara carefully retrieved one. These could be information storage units. History, science, survival techniques. Kara's eyes lit up. Humans were explorers, learners, and problem solvers. They could take what others left behind and use it to survive. Hours passed as they documented the ruins. They found energy conduits that could be repaired, pathways leading to unknown chambers, and systems that hummed faintly under human touch. Kara realized Frostfall had not been abandoned out of malice. It had tested its inhabitants, rewarding those who could understand, adapt, and endure. Humans fit that description perfectly. Suddenly, the ground trembled lightly. Kara raised her hand. "Everyone, stay alert. We are not alone in this chamber." The predator from outside had likely followed their scent to the entrance, but they were far enough inside that it could not reach them. Humans had the ability to plan and anticipate danger. That gave them an edge. They continued exploring cautiously. Kara noticed a console partially buried in ice. Using their tools, they uncovered it. A faint light flickered on. Symbols shifted as if responding to human presence. Mara's scanner detected energy flow. "This is incredible. The machines are compatible with human interaction. We can use them without harming ourselves." Kara smiled. Humans survived because they adapted. They survived because they understood. As night fell in the cave, the humans gathered near the central console. They had uncovered more than just ice and stone. They had discovered knowledge, energy, and history. Kara looked at the glowing symbols. Frostfall was no longer just a frozen, hostile world. It was a place of opportunity, a challenge that humans could meet with intelligence and courage. Kara addressed her team. "We have found something remarkable. These ruins show that life existed here long ago. They failed, but we can learn. Humans have survived worse. We adapt, we endure, and we thrive. Tomorrow, we continue. We explore carefully, but we take advantage of what we have discovered." The team nodded. Humans had a talent for using knowledge to survive. Frostfall had been harsh and unforgiving, but now it also offered tools and lessons. The ruins were a treasure, not just for survival but for understanding. Kara could see it clearly. Humans had the ability to unlock the secrets of Frostfall in ways no other species could. Before sleep, Kara touched the central console again. Light pulsed gently under her fingers. She whispered, "This planet is testing us. We are ready." Outside, the wind screamed, but inside the ruins, humans felt warmth, light, and hope. Frostfall was still dangerous, but humans were clever, patient, and resilient. The frozen dawn had many challenges ahead, but humans were prepared. The humans had spent 2 days exploring the hidden ruins of Frostfall. Each discovery revealed more about the civilization that had once thrived on the frozen planet. Kara and her team had seen energy systems, crystal records, and mysterious consoles, but now they were ready to take the next step. Today, they would attempt to awaken the machines and test the planet's power. The central chamber of the ruins glowed softly as the humans entered. Crystals reflected the pale light, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Kara touched the central console again, feeling the gentle hum beneath her gloves. "This is it," she said. "If we do this carefully, we can bring some of the systems back online. We must be precise. One mistake and the machines could fail or even shut down permanently." Mara and Leo worked quickly. Mara adjusted the connections between the crystals and the ancient energy conduits. Leo monitored the power flow on his portable scanner. Kara studied the symbols on the central console. Humans had a natural talent for pattern recognition. Where other species might have been confused, the humans understood the logic behind the designs. Each movement, each adjustment, was deliberate. The first attempts were small. Lights flickered on in the crystal walls, casting brighter reflections. A low hum filled the chamber, stronger than before. Kara smiled. Humans had patience and intelligence, and it had guided them this far. Each successful step strengthened the system. Frostfall's energy responded to human touch, as if recognizing the presence of a species capable of understanding and adapting. The team worked for hours. Kara noticed small shifts in the ice and crystals, subtle changes that indicated energy was moving through hidden channels. Humans could observe, learn, and act with precision. Where previous civilizations had failed, the humans were careful, combining logic and intuition. Slowly, more systems came online. Light filled the chambers in patterns that had been dormant for centuries. Suddenly, a stream of warm air flowed through the central chamber. Kara looked around. The ambient temperature had risen slightly. The machines were creating controlled warmth, enough to make the caves more habitable. "It is working," Mara said, awe in her voice. Humans had survived Frostfall's cold because of skill, planning, and adaptability. Now, the planet itself seemed to respond to their efforts. As the systems activated, a projection appeared above the central console. Holographic images showed the ancient civilization, cities built from crystal and energy, inhabitants moving with purpose and intelligence. Kara and her team watched in silence. Humans could understand patterns, imagine solutions, and learn from history. This projection was more than a record, it was a lesson. Kara examined the images carefully. She noticed sequences that explained the energy network. Some crystals acted as conduits, others as storage, and some as regulators. Humans had the ability to analyze, adapt, and implement. Where other species might have ignored these systems, humans could use them to survive. Kara realized they were unlocking tools that had not been touched for centuries. Leo adjusted the energy flow to stabilize the system. Lights pulsed steadily now, not erratically. The warmth in the chamber increased slightly, enough to make movement easier. The ice that had coated some of the crystals began to melt slowly. Kara observed the patterns. Humans had survived on Frostfall by noticing details and acting carefully. The machines responded to that intelligence. The team explored further chambers, each filled with dormant machines and crystal arrays. Kara instructed them to activate each one slowly, testing and observing. Energy flowed through channels that had been frozen in time. Machines that had been silent for centuries hummed softly, their power restored by human ingenuity. Frostfall, harsh and deadly, was beginning to feel less hostile. Hours passed. The humans worked tirelessly. Each activation brought more light, warmth, and stability. Mara discovered a chamber filled with liquid water beneath the ice. Controlled heating systems had melted it partially, creating a pool of fresh water. This could support life, Mara said. Kara nodded. Humans survived because they could use resources wisely. The machines were tools, not just decorations. They offered a way to endure Frostfall's extreme conditions. Kara noticed subtle patterns in the crystal arrays. When aligned correctly, the energy flowed more efficiently, warming the caves and stabilizing the environment. Humans had a talent for observation, pattern recognition, and problem solving. Other species might have failed here, but humans could learn, adapt, and thrive. Kara smiled. Frostfall was harsh, but humans were clever. As the systems came online, the central chamber glowed brighter. Holographic projections showed new patterns in the ice, tunnels leading to areas they had not explored. Kara realized that the planet itself was responding to their efforts. Humans could unlock potential that others could not. This was not just survival, it was progress. The team paused near the central console, taking a moment to rest. "We have done something remarkable," Kara said. "These systems have been dormant for centuries, but we revived them. Frostfall tested us, and we passed." Humans had endured the crash, the cold, the predator, and the unknown caves. Now, they were in control of a part of the planet's hidden power. Leo examined the projections. This energy network could power our ship, our camp, maybe even more. Humans survived by using intelligence, observation, and planning. That is why we can do this. Kara nodded. Humans always found solutions where others saw problems. They adapted to challenges that seemed impossible. That was why Frostfall had not defeated them. As night fell, the caves glowed warmly. Crystals pulsed gently, energy flowing through the network in steady patterns. Kara and her team gathered near the pool of water. Frostfall had been deadly, but now it offered safety, warmth, and knowledge. Humans had survived because they could observe, learn, and adapt. Kara touched the central console one last time for the day. Light pulsed beneath her fingers. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Frostfall is alive, and we are a part of it now. Humans have survived, adapted, and thrived. We will continue to explore and understand this world." Outside, the wind screamed across the frozen plains, but inside, the humans felt warmth, light, and hope. The predator from the previous days paced near the cave entrance, but the humans were safe. Frostfall had tested them repeatedly, but humans had patience, intelligence, and courage. They were not the fastest or the strongest, but they could survive where others could not. The awakening of the machines was proof. Humans had turned danger into opportunity. Kara looked at her team. Each member showed exhaustion, but also determination. Frostfall was challenging, but humans had proven themselves capable. They survived, adapted, and unlocked secrets that had been lost for centuries. The frozen dawn had tested them, but humans were ready for whatever came next. The central chamber glowed softly as Kara and her team examined the holographic projections from the ancient ruins. The energy systems they had awakened had changed the cave's atmosphere. Warmth replaced the bitter cold, and light reflected from the crystals illuminated hidden corners. Frostfall was no longer entirely hostile. Humans had survived, adapted, and thrived. Yet Kara knew that the true challenge had just begun. Mara approached the central console with concern. "These projections show more than just the energy systems. They indicate a core beneath the ice, a massive energy source. It could be dangerous if not handled correctly." Kara studied the holograms. The core was hidden beneath layers of ice and rock, connected to the energy conduits they had already activated. Humans had the intelligence to understand complex systems. They had survived Frostfall storms and predators. But the decision before them was more than a test of skill, it was a test of judgment. Leo stepped forward. "We can access it? The energy could be incredible." It might help us survive, even help Earth. But the readings show instability. A wrong move could destroy the system or the caves above. Kara nodded. Humans faced challenges not just of survival, but of wisdom. They had to weigh risks carefully and decide the right course of action. Kara gathered the team near the glowing crystals. This is not just about us. Frostfall is full of power and knowledge. If we disturb the core recklessly, we could destroy everything we have discovered. We need to choose carefully how we proceed. Humans were different from other species because they could consider consequences beyond immediate survival. They could balance curiosity, caution, and responsibility. That ability had kept them alive so far. Mara studied the holographic display. The core appears to control more than energy. It regulates the entire network of crystals and machines. If we take it offline or overload it, the system could fail completely. We could lose the warmth, the light, and access to fresh water. We must decide whether to risk it or leave it untouched. Kara knew the choice was critical. Humans survived because they understood balance. They adapted to dangers, but they also respected limits. The team debated quietly. Each member considered the risks and rewards. Humans survived not only because of strength or intelligence, but because they could communicate and collaborate. Kara listened carefully, noting every suggestion. The predator outside the cave moved silently in the snow, unaware of the decision being made inside. Frostfall had tested them with storms, predators, and ice, but now it tested their judgment. Finally, Kara spoke. We will not act recklessly. We will explore the core carefully, using the knowledge we have gained. We will avoid shortcuts and pay attention to every sign. Humans survived Frostfall by observing, adapting, and thinking. We will continue to do the same. Her words reflected the human ability to combine courage with caution. They would not be careless, but they would not ignore opportunity either. The humans prepared for the descent to the core. Ropes and climbing equipment were secured. Sensors and scanners were calibrated. The holographic projections guided them toward a narrow tunnel leading deep beneath the ice. Kara led the way. Every step was deliberate. Every observation mattered. Humans survived because they understood the importance of careful planning. The tunnel was treacherous. Ice walls glistened with frost, and hidden cracks threatened to collapse. Leo used the scanner to detect weak spots while Kara checked the path ahead. Mara carried equipment to stabilize the tunnel if necessary. The predator outside paced, sensing movement but unable to follow. Frostfall's dangers were present, but humans had prepared for them. After hours of careful movement, they reached the core chamber. The walls were covered in crystals connected to a massive energy node at the center. The core pulsed with light, powerful and steady. Kara felt the hum in her chest. This was the heart of Frostfall's energy system, and humans were the first beings to interact with it in centuries. Mara studied the energy readings. It is stable for now, but even small mistakes could overload it. We must proceed with precision. Kara nodded. Humans survived because they could act with intelligence, not just instinct. They could recognize danger, assess options, and choose wisely. The team began examining the core. Kara touched a small control panel. The energy responded to her presence, pulsing brighter but remaining stable. Leo adjusted conduits to distribute power evenly. Mara monitored fluctuations. Every action required observation and careful thought. Humans could coordinate complex tasks under pressure. That skill was rare in the galaxy. As they worked, the holographic projections activated again. Symbols appeared above the core, showing the ancient civilization using the energy for warmth, communication, and survival. Kara realized the full potential of the system. Humans had survived by using knowledge, observation, and teamwork. Now, they could apply the same principles to the core. Suddenly, a tremor shook the chamber. Kara held her ground. Stay calm. Monitor the energy flow. Adjust as needed, she instructed. Humans thrived under pressure because they combined intelligence with patience. The tremor passed, and the readings stabilized. The core had responded, but humans had been careful enough to avoid triggering a failure. After hours of careful adjustments, the core stabilized fully. Energy flowed smoothly through the crystals and conduits. Warmth spread through the cave network, light brightened previously dark chambers, and water flowed steadily from the ice into storage pools. Humans had taken a dangerous system and made it safe. They survived because they understood, adapted, and acted with foresight. Kara gathered the team near the core. "We have a choice," she said. "We can leave it as it is, keeping it safe and stable, or we can try to use more of its energy to explore the planet further. Both options have risks. Humans survived by thinking carefully. We must make the right decision." Mara spoke first. "We should not risk the stability. The planet has tested us for days. We have learned, adapted, and survived. That is enough for now. We can continue our exploration using what is already safe." Leo nodded. Kara agreed. Humans survived not because of reckless ambition, but because they balanced curiosity with responsibility. Finally, Kara touched the central panel lightly. The core pulsed in acknowledgement. Humans had made a responsible choice. Frostfall would continue to provide warmth, light, and knowledge, and the team could continue their work safely. Humans survived because they could adapt, plan, and choose wisely. They respected the dangers of the world while taking advantage of its gifts. The predator outside paced silently. The humans were safe, and the caves glowed with renewed energy. Frostfall storms and ice were still dangerous, but humans had proven themselves capable. The core was stable, and humans had made the right choice. They survived because they were clever, patient, and responsible. As night fell over the frozen plains, the humans rested near the glowing crystals. The core hummed steadily, spreading energy throughout the cave network. Kara looked at her team, proud of their accomplishments. Frostfall had tested them repeatedly, but humans had endured. They had made the right choice, ensuring survival and understanding. Kara whispered to herself, "Frostfall is alive. It tests, it challenges, and it rewards. Humans have survived, adapted, and thrived. We will continue." Outside, the wind howled over the ice, but inside the caves, humans felt warmth, light, and hope. The frozen dawn had tested them, but humans had proven themselves ready for whatever came next. The caves of Frostfall glowed warmly as Kara and her team prepared for their final day of exploration. The energy core they had stabilized spread light and warmth throughout the underground network, creating a safe and livable environment. The predator that had stalked them from the surface watched silently from the ice at the cave entrance. Humans had survived storms, predators, and the planet's harshest tests. Now, they had the chance to leave a lasting mark. Kara stood near the central console, reviewing the information they had gathered. The ruins held records of a civilization that had once thrived here. Machines hummed softly, crystals pulsed with energy, and tunnels led to areas still unexplored. Humans had not only survived but had begun to unlock Frostfall's secrets. Kara felt a sense of responsibility. Humans did not conquer lightly. They adapted, learned, and respected the world they entered. Mara checked the scanner one last time. The systems are stable. Energy is flowing evenly through the network. The caves will remain safe for future exploration, she reported. Leo added, "We could use some of the energy to repair our ship." Humans survived Frostfall by observing, planning, and working together. "We can continue our mission now, with this knowledge." Kara nodded. Humans had always turned opportunity into advantage. The team decided to map the entire network of caves, connecting every chamber they had discovered. Holographic projections showed energy conduits, crystal arrays, and storage units filled with knowledge from the ancient civilization. Kara realized that Frostfall had been waiting for someone capable of understanding and using its gifts. Humans were that species. They survived because they could think, adapt, and act wisely. As they moved through the tunnels, they found chambers still untouched by human presence. Crystals glowed faintly in the darkness, and some machines hummed softly in response to their approach. Kara touched one of the devices. Light spread through the chamber, revealing detailed records of the ancient civilization. Humans had a unique ability to notice and interpret these signs. They understood patterns, solved problems, and learned from history. That skill had kept them alive so far. The predator outside paced quietly, aware of movement inside the caves but unable to enter. Kara watched it carefully. Humans survived on Frostfall not only because of intelligence and skill but also because of respect for the world around them. They did not attack blindly or take unnecessary risks. They observed, learned, and acted thoughtfully. The predator was a test, but humans had passed. After hours of careful exploration, the team reached the deepest chamber. It contained a massive crystal array, connected directly to the core. Holographic projections of the planet's surface and energy network expanded above it. Kara realized this was the heart of Frostfall's system, a source of knowledge and energy that could benefit not only their team but potentially Earth. Humans had the ability to use resources responsibly. That made them different. Kara addressed her team. We have reached the center. Frostfall has tested us at every step. We have survived, adapted, and unlocked its secrets. Now it is time to leave a legacy. We will record everything we have learned, stabilize the systems, and ensure that future explorers can benefit without endangering themselves or the planet. Mara and Leo nodded. Humans survived because they understood responsibility as well as opportunity. They spent hours carefully documenting the caves, machines, and crystal arrays. Every record was precise, every measurement exact. Kara noted the energy flows, the patterns in the crystals, and the designs of the machines. Humans could take what they found and turn it into knowledge, ensuring that the lessons of Frostfall would not be lost. The ancient civilization had failed, but humans could succeed where others had not. As they prepared to leave, Kara activated the last sequence in the central chamber. Light spread through every tunnel, stabilizing ice formations and maintaining temperature. Water flowed steadily from hidden sources, and energy systems hummed in harmony. Frostfall would remain safe, and humans had created a system that could last for generations. Kara smiled. Humans survived by thinking ahead, adapting, and using knowledge wisely. The predator outside watched silently. It had been part of Frostfall's tests, observing intruders and challenging them. Kara realized that life on this planet was not just about danger but also about balance. Humans had passed the test because they could combine intelligence, observation, and patience. They had adapted, survived, and left the caves more stable than they had found them. Before leaving, Kara placed a small marker near the entrance of the central chamber. It contained a record of their presence, instructions for safe exploration, and a warning about the energy core. Humans survived because they could plan for the future, not just the present. They ensured that those who came after would benefit from their efforts without unnecessary risk. The journey back to their temporary camp was quiet. Frostfall's wind howled, but inside the caves, warmth and light remained. The team reflected on what they had achieved. They had survived storms, predators, and frozen caves. They had discovered a civilization long gone and unlocked knowledge that had been dormant for centuries. Humans survived because they could think, plan, and act wisely. At the camp, Kara reviewed the data one last time. The ship was repaired using the energy from the caves. Supplies were secure. Humans had turned a hostile, frozen planet into a place they could navigate safely. Kara knew that this achievement was more than survival. It was a legacy. Humans had proven that intelligence, courage, and careful action could overcome the harshest challenges. Before leaving Frostfall, Kara took a final look at the caves. Light pulsed softly from the crystals, energy flowed through the conduits, and water ran steadily. Humans had survived where others had failed, and they had left the planet in a state that would allow future explorers to thrive. The frozen dawn had been a test, and humans had passed with skill, patience, and ingenuity. The predator watched from a distance, its curiosity satisfied. Humans had respected the balance of the world while using its gifts wisely. That balance was what made them survivors. Kara and her team returned to their ship, carrying data, samples, and knowledge. Frostfall would remain dangerous, but humans had proven they could endure and leave a positive mark. As the ship lifted off, the caves glowed beneath them, a network of light and warmth in the frozen expanse. Kara looked at her team. Each face reflected pride, exhaustion, and satisfaction. Humans survived, adapted, and thrived. They had turned a harsh world into an opportunity, left a legacy, and proved that intelligence and courage could conquer even the coldest, most dangerous challenges. Kara whispered to herself, "The frozen dawn is no longer just a test. It is a home we have touched, a challenge we have overcome, and a legacy we leave for the future." Humans had endured storms, predators, and frozen caves. They had learned, adapted, and made choices with wisdom. Frostfall had tested them in every way, but humans had survived, and their mark would remain. The ship rose into the pale sky of Frostfall, carrying humans who had proven that survival was more than strength. It was intelligence, observation, teamwork, and courage. Frostfall's harsh world had challenged them, but humans had responded with skill and wisdom. The caves would remain alive with energy and light, a testament to human perseverance. The frozen dawn stretched across the icy horizon, shining softly under the pale sun. Humans had survived where others had failed. They had adapted to the planet's tests and unlocked its secrets. They had left a legacy, not just of survival, but of hope, intelligence, and courage. Frostfall was a harsh, frozen world, but humans had endured and thrived. Kara and her team set course for Earth, carrying the knowledge of Frostfall with them. The lessons they had learned, the systems they had stabilized, and the courage they had shown would inspire future generations. Humans survived, adapted, and left a mark on a frozen world that no other species could. The frozen dawn was no longer a threat. It was a story of triumph, a proof that humans could face the impossible and succeed.